Got an action-packed agenda for you today. We're going to be providing a range of updates across our platform, Discovery, Workspace, Edge, Healing, and UWM as well. And so, as always, we're going to start with platform. We're going to talk about some of the key agentry capabilities. And again, we're going to showcase a couple of items in here which are in technical preview as well. And then we're going to move on to Discovery. Rex is going to talk about some of the great things that are happening with our EASM capabilities and some of the changes involved with that relating to our software inventory capabilities too. And I will provide some coverage on Edge Intelligence, some of the new sensors and capabilities we've got. And then Alan's going to give an update on all things app distribution from that perspective. And then we'll pick up and cover some of the changes and features we've put in from a bots perspective. So lots of things to show there. We'll have lots of demo around that area, and then we'll round off with some of the updates from a UWM perspective and app control. So as always, please keep the questions coming in the chat, and we will answer those as we go along. So as always, we bucket the key themes for this release according to the key areas that are in focus, and that's going to be really helping from an enterprise readiness perspective. Some of the key features there are the ability to customize the reboot prompt. We've got an update on agent health, so some great news on that one. Many of you are already hands-on with that one, and as well, Alan will be covering the app distribution key themes there. From a security perspective, again, it's a key focus to everything we do, both in our secure by default, but also in the features that we're providing as well, helping organizations be more secure, and that is via enhancements, in this case to our app control. So providing the ability to implement process rules, self-authorization, as well as those ESM capabilities as well, which Rex will dive into. And then from an efficiency perspective, how we're helping organizations be more efficient. That is going to be through broader visibility from a data collection perspective. We've got some great things to show. Obviously, we're calling out the custom inventory settings here, but as well as that, we've got some new capabilities within our bots as well, in terms of being able to pull in additional information from Microsoft Teams call quality. There's a range of UX enhancements, as well as the ability to have a better grouping and filtering capability. So that's across multiple products. We'll have a look at that in more detail, as well as some broader analytics updates as well. So with that said, let's go and jump straight in. So from a platform perspective, some of the key callouts we're going to cover today are the ability to customize reboots. We'll give an update on the agent health, as well as the additional platform support. So first of all, from a reboot customization perspective, no, unfortunately not quite able to showcase this from a demo perspective.
So I'm doing a webinar.
We are very close with this one, so this will be available in the forthcoming release in just a couple of weeks. And effectively what this is providing is the ability for customers to be able to customize that end user facing reboot request. So the ability to effectively brand that and make it look and feel like it's come from the IT department. So again, I know that's been a very highly anticipated and requested feature. So I'm very happy to be able to deliver that. We're also releasing support for additional platforms as well. So that's Ubuntu and Rocky Linux. So that's Ubuntu 24.04, Rocky 8 and Rocky 9. As well as that, there's been a range of improvements to proxy support. So as well as introducing proxy support for Linux, there's also been a range of improvements in general for the way that we handle proxy servers on Windows as well. So a lot of work going on under the hood. Now, one of the things, I'm just going to come out of the presentation just for a moment, and I just want to provide an update on agent health. So for those of you who aren't aware, agent health is an extension of our agent UI. So when you go into the agent management within here, what you will notice, and this has been something that we introduced on the last innovator session, so this might be a bit of a recap, and some of you, as I say, may already be hands-on with this, but we've been in a rollout phase for this. And what this effectively lets you do is to understand where, if there's any particular agents that are having problems. So these are categorized into different health areas. So we have poor health, which is where we've got issues that are going to be a blocker to the functionality of the agent, or items are in a warning state. So that might be a device that's been switched off for a long time, it hasn't checked in for a while, and so it's really just a heads up that, hey, this isn't on the latest and greatest, and it might be one to monitor. So this is a multi-phase deliverable for us. What you're seeing here is the ability to troubleshoot individual endpoints. So again, you've got the grid here to understand what's happening. checking. You can filter by the different states. It's going to provide advice around what to do with those particular indicators. This is great for troubleshooting where devices might be impacted by network topology or other issues on the device itself, so that you can A, get a sense of confidence for the devices that are checking in, B, be able to understand and remediate issues that are in a poor state. As we continue to iterate and evolve this capability, the next phase of that one will be a broader dashboard view, and then following on from that one, direct remediation from within here. But of course, from within this agent view, you do have the ability in there to reassign, redeploy, or remove as required in there. So that is an update there. So in terms of rollout, that is available in most geos. For the UK environment, for the Americas environment, that rollout is commencing this week. So you should have that available on your tenants sometime within the next week or two.
So the first item we're going to very excited to announce is the audit trail. So audit trail for the platform shows key action event taken, action taken by people. We're able to show you what type of event it is, when it was happened, a very key feature for a platform for compliance reasons. And for January, we're going to release a technical preview of this feature. What it means is technical review, we will only start with a very small set of events from power management. And as we iterate, we'll add more events from different products on the platform. But we will start with the power management event. For this release, the event will be you'll be able to see the event for 30 days. Again, this is only a technical preview. So as we integrate, we will add more events and ability to download it in a CSV format. So that is the first cool thing I want to share on the platform side. And then the second part I want to talk about is update on the dashboard designers. So dashboard designer, since we released, we keep adding new data set. And this quarter, we are adding a new chart type. We are adding two new charts, which is a histogram and a pivot table. I want to talk about pivot table first because I still remember the day when I was a lowly intern, and pivot table is actually the thing that got me started the path of analytic and AI because it's so powerful, and I cannot describe how happy I am to finally adding this to Dashboard Designer. So why is pivot table that powerful? I'll give you an example here. So for example, on our patch deployment history data set, we have a few deployment status that you can see fail or success. What a pivot table can do for you, you can think about able to add that as columns. You can see data breaking down by the status. And underneath that, then you can say, for example, let me just count the number of devices that has the deployment failed or successed. And our dashboard design is so powerful. Not only can that, you can even add it data breaking down by different roles. In this particular example, I was able to break it down by deployment date, aggregated by week. So again, this is the power of pivot table. You can break down your data by roles, and you can now have additional ability to break down data by columns of you choosing. So super powerful, and I hope you get a chance to play around with it. Another cool chart we are adding is a histogram. Histogram, I think a lot of people are familiar with it. It's pretty much a bar chart. You can think about a bar chart for a continuous variable. So my favorite example is think about storage, hardware storage from our devices data set. Now, storage is a continuous variable, right? So some devices can have 100 gigabytes. Some devices can have an 87 gigabyte. It's a continuous, you cannot really put it in individually clean bar, like say a bar for, a Mac devices, a bar for Windows devices. Because of that, histogram comes into play. You're able to break down data based on the storage. For example, I can have a histogram based on storage. and then it will automatically break it down by the number of devices that have a different storage. So in this particular example, the devices in our demo tenant has quite a lot of storage. Obviously, you will have more customized option to decide the width of the bar. So, for example, if I want to say I only want to see the storage breaking down by 100 gigabyte per bar, you can adjust that in our under customize. So 2 new charts. So that is Dashboard Designers. We're going to introduce 2 new powerful charts. So now let's switching gear to another popular topic, which is reports. So reports in January, we still only have reports for patch management data set, but we are adding a lot of new out-of-the-box report template for the patch management data set. In fact, we're adding 6 new out-of-the-box report template. Specifically, we're adding a lot more of the detail report template. Some of the feedback we get from customers were, Susan, it's great you have a summarized report template, but we want more detail. For example, we want to know exactly which devices or which patch is missing. We are able to do that. You will be able to do that in a new release. Not only that, we also introduced some brand new reports like vulnerability-based reports. So now you get able to generate report about the vulnerability exposure in your environment. And also monthly maintenance, where we break down your deployment tasks based on regular maintenance, for example, and 0-day response, for example. So adding 6 more new report type. Another thing we did was, let me show you one demo, is we also enhance the filter options. So this is also one of the big key asks from a customer from you all is, well, we want to see reports on only the missing patches, because that is the key concept of a risk-based patch management. We only want to see the patches that has not been patched yet. So now we introduce this new filter for you to do it. So I'm not going to go through the whole flow. Everything else is pretty much the same. So from the reporting side, very excited to announce we're introducing 6 new out-of-the-box template for the patch management data set. And we are also enhancing your capability to filter only on missing patches only. So there you go. Those are the 3 main updates from me. Back to you, Robin.
Awesome. Thanks, Susan. And I guess we can hand over straight to Rex to cover all things discovery. Rex, do you want me to bring up the slides, or you go from here?
I got it, I think. Thank you.
Robin, sorry, Rex. Robin, real quick, there is a question in chat. Were you guys able to get those?
Should everybody have reports in Neurons, or is it not released yet? So I think that is the...
because we currently only have one data set, and it's patch management data set. So as a result, for now, only customer with patch management can see the reports. But as we iterate in the future, we hope to add more data set to the reporting. So hopefully in the future, customer with other SKU or even just a platform SKU will be able to see some report with out-of-the-box report. But for now, we only have patch management reports.
Thanks, Susan.
Awesome. We'll step into discovery. We continue to work on our connectors. As you guys put in enhancement requests, Adobe got some updates, SCCM got updates, the Vrema connector got updates. Almost every connector out there is changing its authentication model. If they were on a basic model, they're going to a token model. So know that we're tracking those, trending those. Thank you guys all for the feedback on our connectors and those enhancements. We'll continue to do those. Inventory, key component. We always want to make it more customizable. We recently released, and I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we've released the ability for you to go in and configure custom scanning for registry or WMI. And with this release, we'll be adding the ability for you to add file. So this would allow you to say, hey, go look for this specific file, regardless if it's executed. I always want to know if this file is there. And so now you'll have registry, WMI, and file names that you can go in and add those to support custom capability. In the exposure data, as we continue to aggregate that up, we've now enhanced it with threat data. So here we are, we're looking at the exposure view. You can see that I've got the exposure, I've got the VRR scores, the exploits, what type of exploits, the source tags, where this coming from, its last seen, and if there's malware, what types of malware that are associated with it. So this gives you additional data. You can filter and really come in and look and see, hey, what's some of the risks that are coming into my environment? We also have the drill down deep data on each CVE that is found. So continuing to enhance that, as Robin was talking about. So that's coming along quickly. We've also updated the insights. Now you have the breakdown of, hey, how many exposures in my environment are critical that have ransomware or are exploitable, so we can really prioritize and get to that data that we need to. Now, spend intelligence recently was changed and moved. So those of you that didn't catch that, it was moved, so it is part of discovery. So no extra licensing needed as part of discovery. It's out there. We're going to release a software inventory v2. When it comes out, it's going to look like this as a preview model. When you look at this, there's always been the challenge of how much content can we have? When we have manufacturer content, we have a lot of content around it, but there's always these off cases of like, hey, check this out, Rex, you didn't have Battle Scribe as a manufacturer because they've the way they register it, they look like they're three different ones, even though they're the same company. We've now given you the ability to come in and edit, and you can update and fix what you'd like. Now, it only fixes your tenant. We also give you the ability to look at it from a title viewpoint, and you can come in and edit and change here. You can come in and look at it from a version level. Of course, the trend is going to continue where you can look at it in that model. When we look at it from an install viewpoint on a specific machine or device, we also are going to give you the ability to look at evidence and usage. So evidence is that never-ending question we get of like, you say you see Battle.net on my box, how did you find it? If you go into evidence, it'll say, we found it with the add remove programs, we found it with the executable, we found it with the MSI keys. It will explain and show to you exactly where we got that data and how it's available there. So that's in preview. We're going to push it out. We've pushed it out to about 5 or 6 customers right now. We're working through making sure that we don't cause any grief. And as we get done, we will continue to push that into preview. In the workspace view, there's 2 things that we wanted to cover. One would be audit. Susan did a great job telling us this. If you come in and look, you'll see audit. She showed us all of the capabilities. And as she said, patch is also very close on the heels of power management. So you will see additional capabilities coming there super quickly for that. API access. We have updated our API documentation. There's no additional license or registration required. You're able to get to this documentation with your community access, and you're able to continue to go there. So we continue to enhance our APIs, much simpler for you or your customers to be able to get in and use that. So with that, Robin, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rex. A couple of questions have come in there, which
I'll jump in as now I can see them.
There we go. Marvelous. Awesome. So Edge Intelligence, a few things to cover off today before we jump onto healing. So first of all, let's go and jump straight in, actually, because I want to show you some of this stuff. So we have a new sensor for network interfaces. So this is great. It's a generic network interface sensor, but one of the use cases there is to help understand connectivity from a VPN perspective as well. So I will show those capabilities in just a moment. There's also an enhancement to the application control sensor that we have within here. So for those of you who are using hybrid AC, of course, that's got the ability to block applications from running. Now, one of the elements that was requested to be added to this one to really make it more useful was to highlight the deciding rule that caused that launch to be blocked, to make it much easier to understand what the root cause of that will be. For example, trusted ownership blocking. So that is now available as a column of data within there as well. We also have the ability to customize the query columns, and I'll jump in and showcase that, as well as some of the targeting enhancements that we have within there as well. So let me go and jump out for just a moment, and I'm going to go and open. I go to the Edge Intelligence sensor. The first thing to show within here is this new network interfaces sensor that we have down here. So I can go and launch the network interfaces sensor, and this is going to broadly categorize which things are connected over wireless, which ones connected over LAN, and which ones are neither of the two. There's something else. So I can go to the details view, of course. And then there I get all of the different columns. So I can understand the estimated link speed, I can understand the signal strength, the IP addresses, what network is connected to, v4, v6 addresses. So again, being able to get to that information really quickly hopefully helps to get broader visibility from a network perspective. As I say, you can also use this for troubleshooting VPN connections as well. So I can come into here, I can search for a particular connector, or I can browse through the list of discovered attributes that have come in. So if I want to find something like Juniper Networks, I can go and click on that one. I can click OK, and then that will show me again the different connectivity, the link status, etc. of those as well. Now, segueing into the other new capability we have there from a column picker perspective, you'll see you have that new item on the upper right-hand side of the table. Now, this is implemented across every sensor. And what it does is it gives me the ability to choose a column, and I can add a column within here. Again, this is the same experience you have within the device view. So in here, I can overlay some general information. So that information you get on the default landing page, where you have the map view and the different columns in there, all of those are globally accessible. So you can pull in things like the operating system, the location of the device. And so this is super useful if you want to pull in that additional context in line with these, or maybe you want to just enrich the data so that you can do your CSV exports. So that is a new capability. That also extends into the targeting of these as well. So we're also able to go in and have a richer view from a targeting perspective in terms of being able to create that within there. So again, some great capabilities there to hopefully improve the experience when using Edge Intelligence. Okay, so moving on now to healing. And actually, Alan, if it's okay with you, maybe what I'll do while I've got the mic is I will cover off the Neurons bots, and then we'll loop back to app distribution.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, fantastic. And actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to move away from the slide, and I think I can demo all of this from here. So let me minimize this, and we'll go ahead and we'll jump straight in here. So the first thing that you'll notice if I go into bots is that we've really had a rethink when it comes to the scalability in terms of how you work with bots, and what you'll see featured in this release are a large number of customer requested feedback. So hopefully these resonate well. So we've had the ability to define a category. So these little tags you see on the right, at the point where you save a bot, these have been in the product for a long time. But actually working with them, they've just been there as an attribute to help enrich the grid. Whereas what we've introduced for this release is the ability to choose a tag. So if I want to see all the bots that are tagged as Robin, I can click on OK, and that's going to constrain the view down. And then it's going to retain that filter, so I can go and I can uncheck these and then get back to the original list. The other pivot, the other way of doing it is we have this new view by category at the top, and what this lets me do is to view the split. So it's going to show me the different categories that are available within there. So the next thing to show is around the templates. So again, when you go in and you create a bot, the default there is you can start from a blank. You can go in and go and create your bot. Then you have the ability to start from a template. Now, as we have a growing list of templates within here, we've made it easier to navigate that list. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch over to the pre-release tenant here. It's our engineering tenants. I'm going to show you a slightly different view that we have within here. So again, I can go into create a bot. I can click on my template, and you'll see on the top right, you now also have a grid view within here as well. So it just makes it much easier to explore all of the different available templates that we have in here. You'll also see that where there's a new and updated template, we also have this new badge as well. So you can clearly see which ones are new. We also have a text search within there as well, and you can still browse those different columns within there as well. So again, as we continue to invest heavily in creating these templates, enriching the templates, we want to make it easier to navigate and find what you're looking for within there as well. Okay, so the next thing to show, if I go, I'm just going to go back into this tenant within here, and I'm just going to go and open a bot. Let me see, we'll just open, I don't know, any bot. We'll open this guy here. And what you'll see is a couple of things. First of all, we have within the listing now a new and updated section. So this should be live on your tenants now, and you'll be able to highlight what are our new capabilities, which things are new within there. They're also available, of course, if you scroll through the queries, you'll be able to see within there which things are new as well. So again, it's easy for things to get lost in here as we continue to introduce new things. So making it easy to visualize which things are new or have had some major changes implemented. And you'll see a few things on this tenant that aren't in your tenants. Don't worry too much about those. This is more just to show the new badge that you have on there. Now, another key capability that you've got, again, if I just go back to here, I'm just going to quickly open another bot that we have within here. It doesn't really matter which one. I'll just open this guy here. So one of the requests that we've had a number of times, number of votes on it in our portal is, hey, it's great that you can annotate stages and things like that, annotate the connections between them. What we really want to be able to do, though, is to annotate the stages. So Ivanti might call it antivirus. However, that returns some really useful metadata, and I'm actually using it for something completely different. So when I'm looking at the bot holistically, it'd be really convenient if I could put my own label on it so I know what it's doing. So what you'll notice is we now have this custom name for the stage. You can go in and you can call it whatever you like. I'm going to call it Robin. I can click OK, and you'll still see in parentheses what stage it was derived from. But you can then also see up there the name there, so it just makes it easier to view what's happening from that perspective. So while we're talking about content, of course, there's new stages that we continue to bring in as well. So one of the new capabilities that we have here, if I can find it, is called the delay stage, and you'll see it's got the new badge on there, which helped me out. So the delay stage, quite simple. All it does is it delays any actions that go through. You can sit there and you can arbitrarily rate for a period of time, so up to 7 days. So some useful use cases for this one. Maybe you want to reboot a device and you want to wait a period of time before you perform a follow-up action. Maybe you've interacted with a user, you want to wait for a period of time before you check in to make sure everything's okay. So a range of different uses, either from human interaction or just to avoid a race condition or to wait for a period of time. Previously, you could achieve that by using PowerShell and executing it on a device, but that isn't really the most efficient way of doing it. So this delay is completely done within our cloud, within the logic, so that will be pushed out and available. And now I'm really excited about this next one. This is one called Teams Call Quality. And if we think about digital experience, of course, many of us are, as we're using right now, we're using Teams here to host this call. Now, again, it's great when it works. When things go wrong, it can be challenging to understand what's happening from that perspective. So we've introduced this new stage to really help better troubleshoot that. So, of course, the call quality dashboard is available. But again, that's useful if you're an administrator, not necessarily useful if you're a help desk or for highlighting persistent problems or understanding where there's a trend or there's other attributes, or you want to automate some of that troubleshooting or use interaction. So that's why bringing it into automation makes a lot of sense. So if we have a look at some of the attributes that are available within here, I'm going to open the stage information, and you'll see here there's an absolute plethora of different metrics that we can return. So all things like the jitter, frame loss percentage, frame rate issues, the freeze duration. So basically any of that telemetry that's available, we can scoop it up, and then from there you can choose to go and iterate through. You can filter. So in this particular example, again, you can pull out some of the key metrics that you want. You can average those. You can feed them back. You can engage with the end user. So the real range of different ways in which it can be used. So we plan to make this really easy by shipping some out-of-the-box templates to help get the best out of it. Again, you can either put in arbitrary dates from the call telemetry to return, or that can be determined dynamically. To show you what I mean by that one, I'm just going to show you a quick example here. If I go to my test device here, so I can, I'm in the seat now of a level 1 analyst. Someone's experiencing some issues, so I can publish a bot out to the device view to help highlight maybe what was happening there. And so hopefully maybe just needs a little refresh. That panel will load in just a moment. But effectively what I can do is I can run the bot. When I run the bot, what is going to happen is it's going to prompt me for the from date and the to date. There we go. I think Teams is making my browser run a little slow. So in here, I've got my Teams call troubleshooter. I can go and open this up. Let me see if I can remember when I last ran this test. If I run it from the 16th, I'll run it to maybe the 19th. I think should cover it okay. I can go and run. And what this is going to do, it's going to fetch the telemetry between those dates. And so what it's going to do is going to pull the API. It's going to pull that information back about those calls. And then what it should do is give me a breakdown in here of what happened between those dates. So it looks like something went a bit wrong in here. The demo gods aren't being kind. I'll try it one more time. If not, I can drop a screenshot in the next session. The 16th to the 19th. Just going to run now. Okay, and effectively, yeah, so what this can do, I can show you, here is one I ran earlier. If I go back to my notifications within here, there we go. I'm just going to go and this guy up here. I'll be able to show you the results that you can see. There we go, fantastic. So this is effectively an example of what you'd see. So the number of calls and the time range, you can see the network conditions, you can see if there are any issues in there, the different tests that we can run. We can pass in the advice to the analyst and what we can use at that point. So again, fully actionable. And this can also be run autonomously at scale as well. So again, that'll be supported by out-of-the-box content too. So let me just see. So a couple of other things to show. So one of the items here, again, another popular request was the ability to leverage CSV email reports. So again, you'll see that under beta. And this is effectively a variant of the email report with attachment. We put it under beta to allow us to get some early feedback on this one. So the main difference between this is that we now have this little section at the bottom to add results as attachment. So what this means is if you want to programmatically use those results, you can go and include those results from upstream stages, just tick the ones that you want, click OK, and then they, once you put the subject in and send it, rather than sending the results for the devices as an email body, they will now be included as an attachment, which you can use. A couple of other changes that have just gone in. I'm just going to go over to this tenant here. Again, as customers continue to leverage bots for more and more use cases, things like download actions or custom PowerShell, some of the use cases of things that have been executed, they're really big downloads or they are long-running PowerShell scripts, they can time out. And so we've always had arbitrary timeouts that have been hard-coded against the stages. But in order to flex to use cases and allow customers to have more control over that, what we've introduced is the ability on select stages. So you'll see within the advanced settings in there, as well as the date settings, which we showcased on the last item. You also have the max running duration. So again, you can turn this on, you can set it in hours. Maybe I want to set it for 24 hours. And so I can, effectively on the download stages, PowerShell queries, PowerShell actions, and things like that. You can now have control over the timeout of those as well. There are a number of changes coming in for the scheduler as well. So I can't showcase those today. I will show you a screenshot in just a moment. Another thing that I can't show you but is live at the moment is when you're executing those bots from the device view, what you'll find is that when those bots contain actions, they'll be much snappier. We've done an awful lot of work under the hood. We've implemented a priority queue for analysts who are engaging with those bot actions to make sure things run as fast as they possibly can. The final thing I'll just show from a quick demo perspective is on the people view, or if I go back to my bots and go back to my surveys, we've implemented that generative AI breakdown of surveys that are run against people objects. So to show you an example of what I mean by that one, if I go to my people survey within here, again, this is a particular survey where we're polling people to ask them something that's not directly attributed to a device. We're saying for something like, what's your working from home experience like? Again, your digital experience can take into account a number of things, not just the device you're working on. So this technology gives you a way of being able to get in a broader range of sentiment. And because you're asking the person, this allows us to roll up that feedback. So again, prior to this release, we had this capability, but it's only at devices. This is now available at the people level of surveys as well. And what you'll see as we close out the release is, again, the organizational level survey results, as well as the survey aspect of the DEX score being reflected on the people object as well. So again, to round off just before I hand over to Alan, I'm just going to bring back up the slides and I'll show you a sneak peek of the changes that are coming to the healing scheduler. So if I just bring this in, just go through the slides. Sorry, don't want to spoil Alan's slides within there. So we talked about the categorization and the grouping of bots. We spoke about the export of data from CSV format. We spoke about the delay stage and what we can do with that. The performance improvements and optimization, the rename of stages for those custom labels. And here we go, the scheduler improvements. This isn't quite ready to show just yet. Again, this will be available in the next couple of weeks. And so this enriches the current scheduling settings, which provides more flexibility to be able to say, for example, I want this to run every particular day on these particular days. I want to maybe run it monthly instead. So again, for infrequent bots, especially where you're doing things like triggering scheduled surveys and things like that, it provides much more flexibility, much more control over the recurrence, where you don't want things to run over a weekend, but you do want to run on a weekday and so on. This won't change the minimum interval, incidentally, from when you can trigger. That's still going to be 30 minutes. At the moment, we will be continuing to evolve as we continue to work towards additional kind of event-driven approaches with there, but this will provide much more flexibility with those schedules. We covered the team's core quality experience. And Alan.
All right, thanks, Robin. That's pretty neat. A lot of good new stuff there. Thanks for showing all that. All right, if you want to go back up to the slides for AppDist, and then I'll grab it in a minute and show a couple things real time. Okay, so the first one is the app portal. Many of you who are using app distribution probably have seen some of the announcements come out on this, but app portal is now available. We made it first available on a limited basis in December, but as of the 1st of January, it's now available to everyone. So I'll show that real quick. And then real-time deployment of apps. So if you'll move down to the next slide after this one, the real-time, that's what's coming out this quarter. We've been focusing on, there's two parts to this. The problem we're trying to solve here is the current implementation of app distribution works on a scheduling or actually a 4-hour polling process, right? So it's not as real time as maybe some things have been in the past, like with EPM. It's more of a policy based. You assign devices to an app, and when those devices call in during their sometime during the 4-hour polling period, that's when they'll check in and get the apps that are assigned to them. Well, sometimes we know that our end users have a need to be able to get something out sooner than that 4-hour polling period. So we're providing two ways around this. The other issue is that we do have a retry, a real-time way of getting the app down to the endpoint, and you can retry a device, but you can only do one at a time. So we're doing two things. One, we're going to allow a retry of more than one device at a time. And the second is we're going to allow a real-time deployment of an entire distribution. So with that, I'm going to show these two items here. Grab the screen. Let's start with the app portal, and I'll show you the end user perspective. So the app portal end user will find that inside of their start menu. It's just called app portal. It's not under Ivanti. We did that intentionally because a lot of your end users may not necessarily know who Ivanti is. And this is your way of just telling them, hey, if you want apps to be able to access apps, go to the app portal. So you launch the app portal, and when it comes up, you'll see that you can group. This is the all apps view. You can also view it by category. Categories is a new capability that we have inside of the product. You can also view it by favorites. There's an app history that shows whether things have succeeded or failed. You can search for apps up here when you're in the all apps. That's especially helpful. And another nice little feature that some people like is dark. So if people like the dark mode as opposed to the other, they can have dark mode, and they can configure this app portal the way that they want. Now, we're going to be continuing to enhance this. Would love your feedback. Please, you can reach out to me directly, or you can just log your enhancement ideas in the ideas portal that we have available. Now, let me jump over to the console. In here, you'll notice, if you haven't already, one thing you're going to notice is that there's now these icons inside of the main app catalog view. You can go in and add an icon, and it'll show the icon inside of this view as well as what you saw inside of the app portal, what the end user themselves are going to see. We also have, as I mentioned, category. So when I come into one of these, I can choose what category I would like this to be part of. And then that shows up, and we can filter and sort by what categories you would like the apps to be in. Also, inside of the app configuration, instead of just having the install once and always install, you can now see the option to make available an app portal. We can make it, you can install it and make it available in the portal as well. Or if you just want to make it available in the app portal, you can make it so it's displayed until it's installed, or always just have it available inside of the app portal. So those are some of the options that we've created to help with the app portal. Now let me talk real quickly about the real-time capability. As I mentioned before, you can select an individual device and you can say retry, and it will immediately go tap that device on the head and have it call in and get its apps. Well, people like this, but the problem is we only allow one at a time currently. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to make sure we were aware of any performance and anything that could cause issues in the back end. We are finding now that we're going to allow multiple. I don't have it in the UI, but you will be able to select multiple, and there will be a retry here. So you can select a lot of these and retry a bunch of them at the same time. I wasn't able to get a tenant to show that. I apologize. But that's what's coming in for real time. And then also, when you're inside of an app and you go into a distribution, you can choose a distribution here, and there will be an action right here that says, run it right now. And so you don't have to wait for the 4 hours for things to check in. You can set up a distribution, you can target it and everything, and then you can say, do it right now. And it will essentially do the same as that retry, but it'll do it for all the devices that are part of that distribution. So hopefully that will help out with a number of things that people have been requesting for app distribution. And that's what I've got right now, Robin.
So in the last 10 minutes, I want to give you an update on what we have done with app control since we launched in October. We've added 4 major new features for this release. In fact, there's a 5th one that isn't even listed because they only completed it today, so I didn't want to add it to the list until we knew it was coming. But first of all, we've got process rules. For existing customers of the on-premise application control, you will know that this is one of the vital features of that solution. So we have, of course, brought it to Neurons app control as well. I'll give you a little bit of a demo of that shortly, but like the slide says, it's a key capability. It's really important. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's the ability to have rules fired based on the process that is triggering the application, which makes a lot of sense when you get stuck into this sort of stuff. Secondly is self-elevation, another very popular on-premise feature. The reason that this is so useful is it gives you the ability to have your users elevate for on demand. So rather than you having to create individual rules for you're allowed to be elevated to do this action, you're allowed to be elevated to do that thing, you're allowed to be elevated to do this thing, you instead say, right, if you're trying to elevate something that lives within this folder structure, and it can just be program files, it can just be the entire disk if you want, then you can let them self-elevate. But nicely, it asks them to provide a reason for why they need to run this thing elevated. So you can begin to get an understanding of why your end users need to be able to elevate to do particular actions, which may then inform rules in the future or help you make better decisions about the software that you deploy to their endpoints. So that's another on-premise feature that has come over to Neurons for app control. Completely new is rule organization. So one of the things that our on-premise customers have always done is have very complex configurations. And of course, we expect our app control customers to have the same. But being able to understand what a configuration does and who it's affecting and things like that has always been something of a challenge. So what we've added to the Neurons app control is effectively categorization or tagging. So for each rule that you create, you can add a number of categories to it. I realize on the slide it's really small. When we get into the demo, you'll see it easier. But you can then sort by those categories. So you can very quickly find things based on those categories that you have created. There's also additional search features on that rule management piece. And then there is also default app templates. So as you may recall from when we released app control, we had a feature called app templates, which was the ability for you to group together related files so that you could add them as one to a particular configuration or a particular rule within configurations, rather than having to type each one out separately each and every time. It reduces user error. Now, as you know, application control is a very mature solution that we have implemented at thousands and thousands of customers over the years. And it will be no surprise to you that many of our customers have a similar sets of rules within their configs. So what we've done is distilled down the 20 most popular sets of rules and created them as system-defined app templates. So they will always be there for you to see. You can add them to your configs. And if you want to, you can, of course, edit them as well. So if our Google Chrome system-defined app template doesn't include a DLL that you always think you should have included, then of course you can go and edit it and use that in your configs. But hopefully this gives you a bit of a starter for 10 on being able to get your configs built out quite quickly. The fifth feature, which I don't have a slide for, is very exciting. It's the ability to archive items out of the tables. So without any further ado, let me switch over to demo and I will show you. Right, I'm on an internal CI tenant, so ignore weirdnesses like that at the top. Apologies for it. So yeah, like I say, this is all internal, so it's not available yet, but will be by the end of the month. So if I start by drilling through here, so there's a few things here that have changed. For a start, you can see that there's a little drop down here, and it means that I can now see a bit more information about this file from this front page. So I can see that it's been executed 18 times, but it's been executed from 2 different parent processes, which is interesting in its own right. And I can see that it's had 15 executions from that route. If I drill through this one, then I can see all of the different users and file paths and things and all of that other information as well. So you get to see this far more granular detail each time. But if I go back to this main screen, the other thing is this include ignored option. The text will probably change. There is a huge argument going on about what this means. It means archiving. So one of the feedback we've had from customers who are using this is, right, I've gone through this list and I've now dealt with everything from DBG view and OneDrive standalone update. I don't need to see that anymore. I have created rules that deal with that, but because they are being blocked, they're still showing up. So I can now choose to ignore these things going forward. and they just disappear from the chart. Now I can, of course, see them again if I need to, but it means that you can effectively use this chart like a task list. And as you deal with each item on it, you can then just ignore it going forward. And of course, periodically you might include all the ignored things again to make sure that everything's still working the way you expect, but hopefully it'll help you to organize this list a lot better. So if I was to drill through or choose one of these things, I can now create a rule. So the experience of doing this has changed slightly. So on create rule, I now can choose a bit more information about the file that I want to include, like the full file path, for example, or the vendor name. And I can also choose the parent process, which is where we get to parent rules. And let me just choose my config. So this works very similarly from this point is you create your config. Because I chose a particular file, it's already identified it. I can still add other files if I want to, and I can still change the metadata if I want to. I'm not going to. I am, however, going to go to the when, which now gives me a choice of parent process. So I've still got the other options if I want them, but I can now say that logsec.exe, I can create an allow rule when the parent process is this path for logsec.exe. So it hopefully means that it's the right path for launching this thing. It's particularly useful with slightly more, what's the word? Not dangerous, more advanced solutions where you want to make sure that they're only being launched by the right thing, because if they're being launched by a virus or something, it could be for nefarious, horrible reasons. So that's your parent process piece. Let me cancel out of this and go back to my config and add a new rule. And we now have this self-elevate option. So we've gone from 3 options when I first demoed this up to 5. We now got self-elevate, so I can go next. This is really simple. You choose your path that you want to allow users. So anything within this folder will be allowed, and you can include subfolders. You can just say, you know what, for the users I'm going to deploy this to, it can be any folder on their system. They can always get self-elevation. If I add that and, what am I doing? When I'm going to set it for everyone, and then I can do that, save that. One of the things you can do here is in this settings menu, you can have a message for self-elevation. So you can update this message to say particular information in it, and along with the application and things like that. So it's got a bit more information there for it. It's also got some advanced settings around self-elevation. So whether you then allow it to become allowed or not, allow it to run even if it's not got a trusted owner, all of that good stuff is all there as well for self-elevation. So I've covered off most of what I was talking about. Rule organization. So if I go back to my config or back to my rules here, you can see these categories. So I've got lots of categories and I can search for them, and I can sort by them and things like that if I wanted to show you how to add them. So if I go back to the summary here, I can just start typing, or I can create one. So I can say this is green and EMEA, and actually it's also productivity. So I've got 3 categories now on this one. And again, if I save that, I can now see my 3 categories here. So it's, like I say, a great way of searching, and I can search those category names as well if I want to. I can also search for text that is within the description and what have you of the rules as well. So it should help you find things. If you put particular change numbers in your rule IDs and stuff like that, then all of that will now be searchable. So it should make it nice and easy for you to keep track of things. The last thing then was those app templates. Like I said, they are shown here as system created and created by system. You can see this one has been edited by me. So it was published to me by Ivanti, but was last edited by me because I added a file to it. And things that I created in the first place are not system created and have me as the creator. So that's a first step into the world of being able to share app templates and what have you between different users. But I realize I have hit the top of the hour, so I will stop there.